We welcome you to Daytona International Speedway, here for the start of a brand new season of Ricmotech action. This time, we bring you the Ricmotech Classic Sprint Series. This is a brand new series featuring the cars that we know and love from the Ricmotech Sports Car Series that ended just a few weeks ago for its Season 16. We now bring you Season 1 of this new series, and we have the Ford Mustang representing your GS class, and we have the MX-5 representing the ST class here. And then we'll have a new series as well, or we'll stick with the Sports Car Series. That will see the new edition of the Porsche GT4 and TCR. Those will be doing the GS and TCR classes, but we have the cars that we just know and love in this series, and we bring it to you here live on Apex Racing TV and at the Daytona International Speedway. It's myself, Tyler Maxson, in the commentary booth. Rob Howden and Alessandro De Donde is joining me. Rob, we come here from Daytona, a very iconic track, and the cars that we have seen here for so long in this championship. They've run nearly 15 seasons where it was just these two cars. These drivers know these cars backwards and forwards by now.
Yeah, and I think, Tyler, that's something we'll be seeing. We'll see a lot of these drivers who are very comfortable driving either the Mustang or the Global MX-5 Cup Mazda. And again, cool to see the evolution of the series. New cars always coming onto the iRacing platform. Other drivers wanting to jump on something different. Of course, the program itself also staying kind of connected with what you see in IMSA racing, SRO racing, whatever it may be, Pilot Challenge. So the evolution that we see, these drivers all get back together again, the Mustang and the Mazda. They know how to race against each other, obviously different speeds. And I look forward to seeing the veterans kind of step up, back kind of in their own program with this brand new Classic Sprint Series.
Yeah, and here's one of those veterans that we have had on the series for oh so long. It's Aero Nam. He has dominated the last few seasons of the GS competition. He is really a force to be reckoned with. And with what it looks like tonight, we don't have Mike Dam. He's back in the MX-5 after going to the GS car last season, and now there is Aero Nam. That was his biggest challenger last season, was Mike Dam. Aero Nam's now all alone in this category, and the last time we saw him all alone, he wrapped up that championship before we even got, I think, to the last two rounds. So he really, really dominated that championship back when it was just him. And then looking back at your ST field, it's a very close fight like usual in this field, Alessandro, and it is definitely going to be tight, just being that it is MX-5 racing at Daytona.
Yeah, totally. I agree 100%. Qualifying is going to be very key because track position, even though the draft is very strong in this car, is going to be key to avoid any incident or issues in the first few laps. It's going to be a very long race, 1 hour race, with a lot of strategy going on fuel-wise, and also with pit stop windows, very large windows, 2 tires, 4 tires, short fueling. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, certainly going to be a lot of fun indeed, and that's just one of the newer things that we've got here. Now, for those of you who have joined us before for the Sports Car Series, this is going to be a little bit different for you guys. So we used to have a 30-minute open qualifying session with the classes being split between two 13 to 12-minute portions that they were allowed to run. This being new this season, we have 4 laps or 15 minutes, so it's a little bit more pressure to get the lap done, Rob. It's a very difficult thing whenever you're kind of up against a lap number versus having, say, 12 minutes of just open qualifying time.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about this racetrack as well, Tyler, is it's not an easy racetrack. Yeah, you get a lot of time up on the banking, but you have to maintain so much speed. And there's a couple areas on this racetrack I believe are so important, and that's coming onto the longer parts of the racetrack. When you're coming out of turn 6 and 7, say, out of the infield section of the racetrack, you've got to get out of those 2 corners cleanly, because that leads you all the way through 8 and 9, which is, of course, NASCAR 1 and 2, all the way down the back straightaway into the bus stop. And, of course, that's the first run under the brakes. And then if you can't get through the bus stop cleanly, that's all the way back around to the start-finish. And the crazy thing about the bus stop is if you ruin it one time going in, you've messed up that lap. If you've ruined it, you've probably messed up the exit speed as well, and you could ruin the next lap as well. You have to be so perfect here. With only 4 laps, Tyler, it is unbelievably important to knock them all out perfectly.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And with the lap times registering up in the 2-minute mark, it's going to take you at minimum about 10 minutes just to get all your laps done. So like you're saying, with, if you make a mistake, well, if you make a large mistake and you end up at the wall, then you're really, really hurting yourself here because you may not be able to get all your laps put in, and that can be crucial for somebody that's, very, very quick. I mean, I've seen drivers throw it away just not being able to get themselves ready to go in that very, very short time period that we see here today. And this is, again, we're here at the Daytona International Speedway. This is where we'll cap off, or the start of the Sports Car Series next week. So for those of you who love Daytona, this is definitely going to be an exciting 2 weeks for you because we start these seasons here as well. And now another change to this season, at least for this series, at least in comparison to the Sports Car Series, is we're going to have 60 and 45-minute races throughout this season instead of 60 and 90 minutes that we usually see in the Sports Car Series. And the Sports Car Series will as well get its own changes, but that's not what we're here for this week. This is actually, surprisingly, Alessandro, this is one of the longer races that these drivers will have to endure this season. But for these guys, this will be a normal race length for them, as they would have been used to running this last season as a typical length.
Yeah, totally. It's gonna be very, very interesting, and taking your time, just make it easy in the first few laps. Take not a lot of chances in the opening stages will pay off big time in longer races. So definitely is gonna be a challenge for everybody, and also managing traffic in longer races with the difference between the Mustang and the MX-5 is gonna be key to get a decent result by the end of this motor event.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And this is something that we usually don't see in MX-5. And this is also one of the beauties of this lone qualifying session, is that you get drivers who really have to do it all on their own. And you can see John Allen dominating thus far, 0.4 of a second clear of the closest driver to him in the MX-5 category. And with qualifying now, just now finishing up, he's got that 0.4 of a second gap. Well, say that exact same 0.4 of a second gap goes back about 5 or 6 cars, Rob, in comparison. And he has that just to P2. So John Allen definitely looks to be one of the fastest drivers here this season. He didn't really have the greatest luck last season, to be honest with you. He just kind of fell into some very misfortune at different parts of the season and really wasn't able to get his potential out. Now, though, he has definitely unlocked that here in this evening's racing, and he is definitely going to start this one off very, very strong here from Daytona.
Well, John Allen's a 3-time series champion, right? Series 2, Series 3, and Series 13. So he knows how to get the job done. And that's what we're seeing. Some of these guys come to the front. The same goes for Aero Nam. Looks like he's the quickest driver here in the Mustang program, the GS category. So 2:00.638. Pretty good lap as well. For Shiflett, for Tyler Shiflett, he's up to P2. Clint Vegas in P3. Jeff Jacobs and Randall McGrew rounding up the early Fast 5 here. Still a little bit of time left in qualifying, but Tyler, as you said, a guy like John Allen, he's a veteran driver. He's won the championship before. There are some young guns that are going to come up and try to battle him for this position as well, and we're seeing what they're able to do. But I like the fact that the guys that are getting the qualifying done now know this racetrack. Some of the guys potentially newer to the series, maybe this could be their first experience. It'll be interesting to see how they step up early in the race.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And with qualifying just now coming to an end, one of the young guns that we saw impress so well at the early parts of last season was Elvis Rankin. He's just about 12 or 13 years old. He's very young in comparison to a lot of these guys, but don't let that deceive you. He's extremely quick. He won a couple of races last season and led the championship a good halfway through, and then kind of fell to some misfortunes about halfway through the season. But still, he's a driver to keep an eye on as qualifying is just now finishing, and we'll head into your starting grid here momentarily. And once we can get that, Rob, I'll let you take it through it.
Tyler, thank you so much. Again, qualifying done, as I said, Aero Nam and Tyler Shiflett on the front row. Both those drivers, very impressive. I want to say 7 or 8 championships locked between the two of them. Nam with the fastest lap time, 2-minute flat, 0.638. About a quarter of a second back, Tyler Shiflett starting on the outside of row number 1. Clint Vegas in number 71, and Jeff Jacobs in the 38. Will occupy row number 2, while Randall McGrew on the inside and Cameron Martineau on the outside on row 3. It'll be Stephen Daniel starting 7th, Kevin Ford in 8th, and rounding up the 10 drivers we have in the GS category, David Sanders and Robert Brist. 10 drivers ready to go here in the GS class. Alessandro, pretty good run for John Allen. He'll start on the pole in the ST Open, or rather the ST Pro class.
Yes, indeed. John Allen in the 101 is gonna take pole for the ST class alongside Robert Hartley. Then Travis Wenke and Mike Dam are gonna be in row number 2. Elvis Rankin and David Payton starting behind them, and then Michael Peak in the 56. Brennan Horan is in P18. Greg Mack, Jock Beasley, Chris Thorman, and Jordi Fike closing the second page of our starting grid. Then moving to the second part of the ST grid, Mike Taylor, Derek Holland, Nicolas Parsigneux, Eric Kister, Ken Ladd, Lucas Ford, Edgar Sanchinelli, Brian Cummings, Michael Key, Greg Brockway, Patrick Prevenas, and Stewart Shaw.
Hey, Tyler, what do you think about Mike Dam qualifying P4? Here's a guy, 3-time champion in the GS category, jumping back into the ST Pro class, qualifying 4th. Should be interesting, I think, follow back there on the outside of row number 2.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good one, and we know Mike Dam has been oh so quick. I mean, he was a challenger for the last championship that he took part in that MX-5, so he's definitely quick, and no matter what car he goes into, he's sitting right at about 5,000 I rating, so it's really no surprise that he is quick. And, yeah, like you said, Mike Dam, it's definitely interesting to see him kind of starting a little bit further down, I think, than we would expect him to, only starting in P4, but it's not a bad starting spot for him, considering this is his first race back into the season, like you said.
So, indeed, Tyler, we'll have a split start, I believe. The drivers in the GS category on the green, the drivers in the ST Pro and Open category off the marshal's call to go green, green, green. So drivers getting things underway here. They're getting behind the pace car as we get set to start what is indeed the first season of the Classic Sprint Series, a new program that has rolled off the Ricmotech sports car program. Of course, those new cars coming in, the Audi and the Porsche, setting up for these drivers in the Mustangs and the Global MX-5 Cup cars to split off into this new program. It should be an exciting season for sure. Tyler, I know you called this for many seasons. Let's let you roll it off here for the start of season 1.
So Aeronam will lead the field down to the green flag. The field is in his hands. The pace car is on pit road, and we wait for him to gun it. And like you said, the ST field, they'll be on race marshal. They won't have as much of a go, but it'll be Aeronam gunning it green, green, green. Here for the start of the first season of the Classic Sprint Series. And Aeronam will lead him down to turn number 1. Clint Feig is trying to follow him through. Tyler Shiflett tries to go around the outside. He'll challenge Nam here down into turn number 1.
Yeah, you know what? As we all say, you cannot win a race in the opening corner, but you sure can lose it. We've used that term and statement many times. Drivers coming through cleanly so far. A lot of body roll on these Stangs. They'll get themselves down into the International Horseshoe. And here come the drivers in the ST Pro, ST Open. They're underway as well. Jonathan Allen and Robert Hartley leading them through turns 1, 2, and 3 for the first time. And again, into the infield section for the drivers in ST. John Allen getting out to the early lead, settling in through turn number 3. Alessandro, we are underway.
Yes, clean start for both classes so far. Great respectful driving. Hopefully now they will slot in their position and give us a nice battle leading to the bus stop, which will be a key point in lap 1.
Yeah, indeed. The drivers coming through the infield section of the track. Watch them now track through. That's John Allen in that 101 leading the way, 2-3 wide further back. That's coming now to turn number 5. Then they come into, this is the 6-7 combination. This is where you've got to roll the speed through. You can see the drivers getting up onto the rumbles, climbing back up onto the racetrack. That's essentially the opening corner, turn number 1 here in the oval at Daytona International Speedway. Allen will go to the bottom of the racetrack, about a half a car width up, and we'll roll it all around here. Everybody else getting in the train. Looks like, Tyler, about a 6-driver breakaway to get things underway.
Yeah, 6-driver breakaway, and a few of them already trying to make some moves we saw further back, but These guys are all trying to get in line here. One driver peeking his nose out. That's David Payton in the D2D sports car. He's at the back of this train right now. But look at them all form up as they head down into the bus stop. Nobody wants to send it 2 and 3 wide down in there thus far, and everybody's keeping it clean. But that 6-car train that we had for the race lead has now effectively gotten itself up to about a 15-car train, and that is with everyone within about 6-7 tenths of a second. So it is extremely close right now, Rob, for this top spot in the ST class.
Well, you know the draft is going to come into a play to a certain extent, especially if the drivers start running too wide. Watching the fight here now with Chris Thorman, currently in the 13th spot. Thorman for D2D Sports at that number 60. He'll work his way down into, again, the front part of this racetrack, which is essentially turn 13 into turn number 1. And this part of the track, I've done a lot of laps here trying to get a feel for it. And I just never feel like I'm carrying enough speed into this corner to try to really rotate the car and get full advantage of it. But then when I try to carry speed in there, I inevitably find myself 4 wheels off way onto the right side of the racetrack. So I think it's a really big tipping point in this particular circuit, how well you're able to get into 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's a very tough part to get into as well. As we can see here, this is side-by-side between Jeff Jacobs. There's one driver off and into the barrier from what it sounds like. This is Brian Cummings in the ST class. He'll go down into turn number 1. What exactly happens here? Because it sounded like a pretty big shunt, and he just is going to slightly tap the wall and get himself back going in. But we haven't really seen this in some seasons here so far in the GS class, but it is proving to be some great racing really, really close here between one of the new drivers, Randall McGrew, and Jeff Jacobs, one of the series veterans.
Yeah, Jeff Jacobs in the 38 there, holding on to that position. They come out through the bus stop, and as you said, McGrew right there with him as well. Cameron Martin, another one of the young guns to follow here in the GS category, rather. He's right there behind them. Steve Daniel and Kevin Ford. That's the battle we've got going. 5 drivers essentially there. Ford trying to close it up to make it a 5-driver fight. Alessandro, pretty good racing further back here right now. I think that's, I want to say 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th going at it.
Yeah, it's close racing as per usual here in Daytona. The long straights and the draft playing a big role in these lap times. And it's gonna be a matter of cooperation, working together, not standing in each other's way to break the pack and try to pull away from the competitors in both series, but mostly in the MX-5, which is much more aerodynamic dependent than the old Mustang. So it's gonna be a more strategic race than we will have in the next few rounds in this interesting championship. It's gonna be very, very like a roulette, let's say. It's gonna be with a lot of luck involved.
I'll correct myself. My live timing updated it. I said it was for back in 12th or 13th. That was actually 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. That was the battle for just outside the top 3. Now we're going to go back and look at the drivers here in the ST category. That's the number 16 at Travis Schwenke. He's been able to get in front. Our leader, Jonathan Allen, in the group falling back just a little bit. So Jonathan Allen dropping back in that 101 machine. I want to say he's probably running about 5th in the order. Schwenke leading, Hartley in 2nd, Rank in 3rd, David Payton in 4th. Again, live timing kind of bouncing around. I mean, watch them on track here, though. Good run here early, though, for Travis Schwenke, Tyler, moving that number 16 to P1.
Yeah, very good opening run here, and a little bit of a disappointing start here for John Allen. He's already moved himself down to 5th, but like you said, Travis Schwenke, an amazing start. We know he's always been quick on these cold tire. We saw that last time at Daytona. He kind of moved himself forward pretty quickly, and he's leading the field now. It's Robert Hartley in 2nd place, Elvis Rankin, he's in 3rd. But then these guys kind of have about a 0.4 of a second gap. Back to David Payton, and then they're kind of dropping John Allen a little bit as well. He's back to a 0.7 of a second big gap. But Robert Hartley literally bump drafting Travis Schwenke down the back straightaway, and if that's not Daytona racing, I don't know what is.
That's exactly that. They'll work their way into the bus stop. And again, Tyler, you know what it's like to drive these low horsepower cars as well. You simply can't get out of the draft. You've got to stay on the throttle. It's all about momentum, and it's all about using the guy up in front of you as well. You never want to get off it. You see a move down to the bottom of the racetrack. I like this move to the bottom. We're going to see a driver tuck back in as well. Travis Schwenke in that number 16. He's going to the high side. down to the bottom. Is that Rankin, I think, making the move through to the bottom part of the track? That's Rankin in the 54. No, that's Rankin at the bottom. He was P3. He's looking to the lead to the inside. Elvis Rankin, the young driver who's worked his way through the USAC midgets, the Bandoleros, and into midget cars as well. He was actually a quarter midget driver when he first started, I believe. We'll get more info on him as the season goes on. But this young guy's getting at it here, running P2.
Yeah, getting a nice start there, and they're all going side by side a little bit further back. Nobody really able to decide where they want to slot in line, but that's really going to be the case all the way through this one. No one's going to be able to really settle into a position here. We're going to see a bunch of side-by-side, but there's Steve Daniel, I believe, has had some sort of an incident here. He's into the pit lane. I believe this was with Randall McGrew here, so let's see exactly what happened. And this is McDaniel spinning. He goes across the track into the side of Randall McGrew, and that is a very large incident as they headed on to NASCAR 1 and 2 and out of the infield section, Rob. But that was not ideal that you want to have just 7 minutes into the start of your race.
It's interesting, isn't it? You want to tell your driver to settle in. You know it's a long race. We got a long one here, so just relax, get into a groove. But a lot of times, if you feel like you got a faster car, you want to get to the front, potentially pull away. You don't want to see guys in front of you stretch out. You know, you don't want to see a guy like Nam able to pull away Aero Nam as he's doing right now. He's got about a 4/10 of a second lead on Shiflett. Same goes for any of these categories, either the ST class or the GS class. You never want to see the guys out front get away, because at a track like this, and Alessandro, I'm sure that you would agree, when two drivers start working together and not pushing each other to the point where they're going to make little mistakes, that's when they can get out of the draft and pull away. And at that point, everybody behind them is pretty much lost as long as they're working together.
Yeah, I agree totally with you. I feel like for the time being, people are still working together, make sure not to get dropped by the pack. But as soon as the GS field is gonna sneak through the ST field, is gonna break these draft and these little groups, and it's gonna be even tougher. So I think now the drivers just trying to settle down, to make their tires come up to temperature, especially in the Mazdas, and make sure to not make any mistakes, as we have already seen exiting to the oval. It's not a lot of corners, but they are all extremely important on this track. So it's not very easy to put up a very, very good lap every time. But thankfully the draft is also playing a big part and helping people to keep the pack very, very tight.
A little bit of trouble for David Payton coming through turn number 1. Car washed out a little bit wide on a Mike Dam, had a look to the inside as well. Those two Canadians scrapping it out. Mike Dam currently running in the 6th spot. Again, a driver with a championship pedigree, both in this car and up in the GS car. Decided to come back into the ST Pro category for this first season of the Classic Sprint Series, a newly branded program using the cars that have really been the backbone, of course, have been part of this program for many, many years. Again, Nam still running up front in GS, Shiflett in second. Here's Aero Nam again in that number 78. Gorgeous looking Mustang working its way down the front straightaway into this tough corner I talked about earlier. Here's Kevin Ford from Ricmotech Motorsports in the number 32, putting a lot of pressure now on Jeff Jacobs as they come into turn number 1 and 2. These two drivers dicing it out early on here in this race. Tyler, we know these guys pretty well. They're driving pretty hard.
Yeah, Kevin Ford and Jeff Jacobs, two of the series admins. They do so much work for the series, and they kind of treat themselves and race here on the sports car series side. It's wonderful to see them two racing, and it's also great to see them in not decently high positions here in 4th and 5th spots respectively. So it's definitely nice to have them out tonight, but it's definitely all Aero Nam up front. He's got a 0.6 of a second advantage, but Tyler Shiflett and Clint Vigas, they are not letting him get away. They learned from their mistakes last season, and they are keeping him within check. But this is another swap for the race lead. Robert Hartley goes back to it, and we've seen this happen 2 laps in a row now here, Rob, where Hartley has gone wide, or Rankin's kind of just gone wide out of 3 and 4, let the other driver in line go in, and then they slot back into the 2nd spot in line. So those two possibly working with each other here to try to maximize the speed they can get out of those MX-5s.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Talon. We know we do have a pit stop coming. We're not quite there to the pit stop time. I think lap 14 to lap 17 or 18, I think was what we're looking at in terms of the pit window, because of course, enough fuel to make it to 17. But if you're in the pit before lap 14, then you're going to find yourself running out before we get to the checkered flag. So still a little ways away from that. But drivers, of course, up front, Alessandro, they can work together, save a bit of fuel as well. It's always a little easier when you're tucking in behind the draft. You get off the throttle a little bit. You're not burning up so much of that petrol. So both these drivers up front working well together, as Tyler said, Hartley and Rankin kind of going back and forth, P1 and P2 over the last couple of laps.
Yeah, fuel strategy is going to be really, really important, because we also have to point out that these cars have a very, very slow refueling rate. So the more fuel you save during your stint, the less time you will be sitting down on pit road. And this could be the difference from a podium or a win to a top 5 or even less. So fuel saving is going to be key. And also the time of when you are going to go to enter pit road is going to be very important, considering that GS field has to pit around lap 14 to go to the end. They might consider to pit during the rush hour traffic of the MX5, so we'll be having a nice race and watching out for different pit strategies among the GT field.
Yeah, Alessandro, I think I probably agree with you. I think that everybody's going to be kind of watching what everybody else does, right? What is the pit window going to be? You know, it's pretty much the same, right around lap 14 to lap 18, for a full tank of fuel, to lap 18 for the drivers in the GS class. And yeah, you don't want to come into a crazy pit lane. You also want to make sure you're going to pit when the guys around you are fast. Now, if you get caught up, you're a GS driver, maybe you're caught up trying to come through a larger group of the drivers in the ST class, maybe you duck in, try to get that clean air when you come back out, as opposed to trying to pick your way through. So, Tyler, I know you've done that before, racing on the outdoor stuff, and in real life racing, you got to pick and choose your battles. Sometimes it's better to duck in, get the pit stop done, and you're not having to deal with coming through slower traffic.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and that's how we've seen drivers win and lose these races. Yeah. One of what we call the strategy gurus in the series, that's kind of the nickname that Aeronam has earned himself over the years. He is just so good at having the strategy. He's been on the back foot sometimes by several of seconds and then come out of the pit lane several of seconds on the good side. So he is really a strategy guru. He knows how to get that strategy done very, very well, and I think he'll put that to play here tonight. With trying to get away from Tyler Shiflett and Clint Vigas, who are very, very close to him for second and third. But one driver who sent it around the outside in turn number 1 was David Payton for D2D Esports, and he's now got himself up into second place and started to pull away from Robert Hartley. Now he's looking for the race lead on Elvis Rankin.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised in making that big aggressive move. He wouldn't just tuck in behind Rankin, but I think he felt like he got a really good run out of turn 6 and 7, and the draft is just so huge here. Look at them rolling right back up. Rankin in the 54, holding onto that second spot, but right behind him again is Hartley in that white number 3 machine, sticking right on top of him. Not far back, the 16 there as well, but Travis Schwenke. So this lead group, yeah, they keep swapping the top spots every once in a while. We think one guy may have a little bit of an edge, but it seems to me, Alessandro, that they're all just kind of biding their time right now, cruising around, taking their times up front, and see if they can't pull away as a group.
Yeah, enjoying this 3-wide action down the front stretch. Hopefully they will be watching out and making sure not to do silly things so early during the race. I appreciate the 10th position car, the 09 of Jordi Fike, just hanging around at the back of the leading group, which is 10 car big. So we have a large breakaway here. Hopefully they just give us a lot of entertainment and some very good action, and they keep watching out for also incident points, because we want to remember there is an incident limit of 23 before you get a pit lane a drive-through. and also a point deduction if you get on above 17 incident points. So this is also something to keep in mind for the championship standing.
Personally, I'm just loving this battle right now because we have such a large group running here in this ST Pro class, just scrapping it out. And again, Elvis Rankin has gone back to P1 for Little King Racing. He puts that Mazda down to the bottom, right actually onto the yellow line as he works his way out of turn number 6 and 7, getting himself through turn 8 here on the banking again. Great run further back as well, right behind him. The number 64 is closing back in here as well. We talked about how good of a run David Payton had just that lap before. They'll again work their way down this back straight. It's a night race, Tyler. That's going to play things. Lights are, of course, on. The had a little bit of dusk when we started, but we'll be full darkness when we get rolling here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It will be full darkness to finish this one out, and that can just be a challenge in and of itself. I know a lot of drivers some of the time will struggle with just a lapse of I can't even think of the word I'm looking for here, but concentration. Thank you. So they got the lapse of concentration when it goes to the nighttime, and that can cause some bigger issues. Now at Daytona, it's not really nighttime because this place is lit up like a Christmas tree, as we would say here in America. It is definitely got a lot of lights on it, but it still can pose somewhat of a challenge, especially heading down into some of the corners like the bus stop, or maybe some of the corners that aren't as lit as, you know, maybe the front straightaway is. So it definitely could be a challenge, but David Payton, he's holding on to this race lead very, very strong here. He was defending quite heavily from Robert Hartley heading down into turn number 1, but he was able to hold on to the position. Hartley still sits down in second, but he'll send it now down the inside into turn number 2.
I like the 2 wide coming through turns number 2 and over to turn number 3. Hartley down to the bottom track. The top is the 64 of Payton. He wants this lead. He'll come now through that kink turn number 4. Very fast part of the racetrack where you kind of let the car drift out to the side. You can see Hartley losing a bit of the rear, but he's got the inside coming into turn number 5. The big sweeping hairpin. You got to carry as much momentum as you can, get the car to rotate. Short shoot out into turn 6 and 7. Again, as I said earlier, I think one of the most important parts of this racetrack is you have to be able to get onto this corner, or out of this corner rather, with a lot of forward bite and momentum. You can see way to the outside goes Hartley. How much will he lose being that far out? But down to the bottom goes Payton, Rankin right there, Schwenke, Allen, Peak, and Mike Dam, all in this lead group. Alessandro, great racing as they're back onto the banking here at Daytona.
Yeah, really enjoying this racing. So much fun, so much action. It's like a Moto3 race for people watching also motorbikes. Ooh, some bump and drafting there between the number 3 and Elvis Rankin, the 54. But they slot perfectly in for the bus stop, and there we go again for another rundown through the front stretch and turn 3 and 4.
I like that reference, Alessandro. It is like Moto3 a bit, isn't it? Yeah, I'm a big Moto fan, and if you watch the Moto3 drivers on the very first step of that MotoGP program, they do a lot very similar to the racing we're seeing here right now. It's all about the draft, one guy tucking out and the other guy's drafting up behind. It's a fantastic reference for those people that are motorsports fans who are big on Grand Prix racing as well. MotoGP is fantastic to watch. And again, watching these drivers battle it out here in this Global MX-5 Cup car, part of the Ricmotech High Performance Sim Racing Equipment CSS, the Classic Sprint Series, again presented by Proforma Elite Texas Graphics. Tyler, we're seeing some tremendous racing. I kind of thought they'd settle in a bit, right? And kind of maybe bide their time.
3 wide.
This is a straight up gunfight. These guys are just going at it every corner.
Yeah, like you said, this is a gunfight. I mean, these guys are not backing down from absolutely anything, and I was kind of in the same boat that you were. I was thinking, okay, you know, we're going to get some of the guys, you know, kind of just settling into line, getting ready to go here, but no, these guys are not doing that. They are just going full at it here at this portion in the race, and we're 20 minutes in. We're 1/3 of the way through this race already, so this race is flying by with these guys in the MX-5, and they are going at it. But look at your new race leader in your GS field. Clint Vigas has taken over the race lead, and he's got a 1.2 second advantage over Aero Nam already. So Clint Vigas, nice showing from him. He is really capitalizing in traffic.
We obviously weren't watching that, and I guess that's just that run trying to come through the traffic back. Good job for Clint Vigas. Aeronom, and that's the thing I find very interesting, of course, doing a bit of research before we started this first season of the Classic Sprint Series. Here's a guy that is undefeated running this Mustang in the Sports Car Championship. He's won the last 7 years in a row. This guy knows how to get the job done, but he's got the target on him. Everybody trying to see if they can't be the guy that knocks Aeronom off the top of the championship standings. And Tyler, I'll go to you first, then we'll ask Alessandro. This kind of feels like round number 1 of a series, doesn't it? Nobody's thinking championship yet. Nobody's thinking I got to get points. All they're thinking is, I want to win Daytona. I want to win the first race of the season. I'll let the championship play later. But Tyler and Alessandro, it just feels to me like nobody's worried about a title right now.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Nobody's worried about the title here as Mike Dam, he already dives the car down into pit lane. He goes for an early strategy. Nobody goes with him. But like you were saying, this is really not the point where these guys are thinking about championship. And we'll talk to these guys post-race, and you're going to hear the same exact thing. You know, they're going to say, look, at this point, I'm not worried about a championship. I'm taking this one race at a time, and I just want to get as many points, I just want to get as many wins as I can this season. I hear that all the time from these guys. The only 2 guys I think I ever hear say I'm thinking about the long run are either Travis Schwanke or Aeronom. Aeronom for sure. That guy always thinks about the long run, but most 9 out of 10 other drivers think about the short run in this. They are not worried about that long run one bit. They want to win Daytona and want to win as many races as they can to be more specific in this championship.
Well, that's the 2 different thoughts, right? You'll see a driver will say that. I remember talking to Jack Harvey when he was trying to win the Indy Lights Championship. Was I'll win as many races as I can, and I'll let the championship fall where it may. That happens until the end of the season when somebody's realizing, man, if I had not wrecked going for second and just finished 4th, I'd be in a championship fight, not battling for second or third. You know, Alessandro, that's kind of the deal. Everybody has a different mindset depending on where you are in the season.
Yeah, totally agree. I think plenty of drivers are on the checkers or wreckers, or if you ain't last, you're first. If you ain't first, you're last. Sorry, little hiccup there. But yeah, drive 100% full throttle, pedal to the metal, and do the best you can. That's why we have such an amazing racing so far in both categories. Now, obviously, the GS field is going through the slower Mazdas and breaking up a little bit, but here you can see the 2 different mindsets from Vigus and Nom. 2 different approaches in traffic, I guess, because Vigus was nowhere to be that close with Nom in the first part of the race.
Tyler, give me your thoughts on this. Mike Dam coming in early, lap number 11. The notes, we get a lot of action right now, guys coming into pit lane. Mike coming in on lap 11, was that going to be too early? We had thought maybe lap 14 to lap 17.
See, now, I don't think it is. Now, these guys are very, very good with strategy, like I said. They've been crunching the numbers as well, and there's something, too, here at Daytona. This is one of those weird tracks where you can save a lot of fuel in the draft. And when I mean a lot of fuel in the draft. Now, they've nearly gotten that car to about the midway point in this race, so they should be good on fuel. I don't see Mike Dam really missing the strategy by that much. Now, the only thing he may have missed is his positioning coming out of the pit lane. Is now he is 2 seconds behind John Allen, but he will be on warm tires, whereas John Allen will be on some very cold tires just now leaving the pit lane. So Mike Dam may not be in too bad of a position, but he also squeezes out one of the Mustangs there, who nearly has to take to a grass in avoidance. That is the number 24 of Tyler Shiflett. He's come down onto the lane. Aeronom has come down onto the lane with him as well in the GS class as well.
Wow, what a shakeup here for this this first pit stop, and the only pit stop. Again, maybe the intel we got may not have been absolutely perfect, as Tyler said. These guys all crunch their own numbers. They've got the strategy. They know exactly how long they want to go. Number of drivers coming in a little bit early, but it was interesting, as you said, Tyler and Alessandro, to see some of these guys come in and then come back out right in the middle of some of the MX-5 action. Really not exactly what you want. Drivers having to work their way around. Tyler Shiflett, as we said, he was battling up front for a time with Arrow Nam and Clint Vigas. Vigas still your leader. Kevin Ford, I don't think he and Jeff Jacobs have been into pit lane. But back looking again here at this fight up front in the ST category. Elvis Rankin in the 54 goes back to the lead once again. David Payton right there in that number 64 machine. Michael Peake in the number 56 is right behind him. I'm not sure whether or not Peake has made his stop. No, in fact, there they are. Here they all come right now. Yeah. Down to pit lane, Alessandro. Wholesale. We've got 7 drivers in the ST class into pit lane.
Yeah, it's like a Daytona 500 pit cycle. Everybody goes down whenever the leader goes down. Pit window is now open for all classes. The ST class should be able to run around 40 minutes of fuel, while the GS class is around 18 laps. In fact, we saw the first stops at the end of lap 12. So they should be plenty good on fuel now. And we'll see if somebody took 2 tires maybe to spice things up. But usually the Mazdas have a very slow tire change. So I think everybody stayed on their starting tire set.
Yeah, I believe that the drivers in the GS category had to take on the 2 left side tires, so they did have to do at least the 2 lefts for that tire stop. Tyler, I'm sure you're more up to speed on that, but again, what we're going to see here right now, right, is the drivers have all got into the pit lane. We'll see how things cycle back in, and then we can see what kind of racing develops. Because early on, everybody's in a draft, but in lap, out lap, how good your pit is, that's going to separate the drivers when they come back onto the racetrack.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And now, just a little bit of intel on the MX-5. Those cars actually, with their fueling, can do 2 tires in the same amount of time it takes to fuel the car. So they get basically 2 free tires in every single pit stop. So they will have taken at least 2 left or right side tires in that pit stop because it takes them no extra time to. Now, the GS cars, I believe, are the same way, and they don't have that same, they have that exact same amount of time it takes. But I'm not 100% sure on that one, so don't quote me on that, but I believe that they both are able to take 2 tires with no punishment whatsoever.
Back on board watching here, at least the cam inside the track coming down the back chute, Mike Dam and the Cryptology Orange Racing number 93, the Canadian driver, I think running, I want to say now in about the 7th or 8th position, maybe make that 8th spot now for him, 9th actually for Mike Dam. And again, he's the first driver to come into pit lane, currently running in that 9th spot. Behind him is Hartley. We saw Robert Hartley run as one of the leaders here. More drivers into pit lane as well. Derek Holland coming down to pit lane. I don't think we've seen Chris Thorman yet into pit lane, so Holland's already in there. Again, final drivers coming in to make their pit stop, and then we'll see how things all cycle in. Back on board watching John Allen in that 101, pole sitter in the category. And was running nicely in the lead at one point, but fell back to about 4th or 5th, got shuffled back when the driver started to get aggressive up front. So Allen currently running in the 6th spot in the class. And again, once we know things settle in, Alessandro, you can pick up Jeff Jacobs here. These are the 2 drivers who have not yet pit.
Yeah, it is a different tire and fuel strategy. We'll see how it plays out, but for the time being, clean track, running good laps, time to push 110% now to make some time, and hopefully their strategy will pay out. Some drafting going here on entering the bus stop, good braking points, and we are only halfway through, and I'm having a blast watching this race. I hope also you guys watching the broadcast, you have the same thoughts too. So let us know also in the comments what you think about it.
Tyler, I find it interesting, these 2 guys that know each other so well, a couple of admins for the program here in Jeff Jacobs and Kevin Ford. They're running together the entire time. Looks like they're going back and forth. It seems to me like they're probably working together on strategy, trying to make sure the fuel goes a bit longer. You've done this before. Is this kind of a deal where these guys can go deep potentially into the stint with a lot of fuel saving and have a much shorter pit stop later in the run?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're going for, and it's a great strategy to go for as well because it can gain you a lot of time when you're doing that. And some of the time, maybe if you were about 4 to 5 seconds back, maybe you're within 3 or 4 seconds now, as we see side by side between Aeronom and Clint Vigas down in towards turn number 1. They're going to split an MX-5 by contact. Aeronom makes contact. Vigas makes contact as well. That's the number 60 MX-5, and that was some very big contact. Chris Thorman gets spun by Aeronom down in towards turn number 1. And man, how unfortunate that was. That will catch the attention, though, of race steward Ryan Cobb, and he will take a look at that one as we see another look from it. And there's really nothing there that Clint Vigas could have done, but Aeronom, he may find himself under some very heavy scrutiny.
Well, Tyler, as well, that was the leader on the racetrack in the ST category. Thorman had not yet come into pit. He was going late on the run, I believe. He had not yet made that run down to pit lane. So here he is just trying to stay out of trouble. And the leaders coming through in the GS category cloud him coming into turn number 1. We really haven't talked much yet about the different closing speeds. You could see that Aeronom was pushing hard to try to get down to the inside of the racetrack, but just probably should have backed out of it, and contact was made. Tough one for Thorman, as he was really running well there as the leader in the ST class.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You saw that instant go under review there from race steward, so he will be taking a look at that one momentarily, and I think that should be a pretty open and shut book there. The GS cars just tried to split him, and that's never what you want to see. I mean, it works out some of the time, but it's a very, very risky move to try to be making about the halfway point in this race. That's something that I usually see towards the end of the race, not at the beginning of the race. So, yeah, but I mean, just so unfortunate at the end of the day there for Chris Thorman. Like you said, he was leading that field. He actually looked like he was in a decently good opportunity to come away with the victory in that class, or at least be in the leading fight for that class. He was for so long, and he was trying to go late on the strategy, but unfortunately that pretty much has taken him out of the running for the race lead.
Yeah, and Tyler, you'll see that split where the top faster cars, the pro cars, the GS cars will go around. Issue for one driver here, Patrick Provenis, I believe. Potential issue as he's coming up here into what you want to call this one? I can't quite pick it up.
So we're watching Jordy Fike right now as he's heading onto the banking.
Okay.
He's had some sort of incident here. I'm not exactly sure what it was. I just saw it come up on the timing screen, and Jordy Fike instantly dropped about 4 spots. So we'll see what happened here. I've got no clue what exactly he hit. Okay, so it's an incident there's under review between the 154. That's the car just ahead of Jordy here. He's in the 09, and contact is made. Fike goes spinning, and he does it at the inside wall. Wow, that was very, very close. But Jacob Beasley, he does hit the outside wall, and that is unfortunately going to look to be the end of Jacob Beasley's day, as he will have some quite severe rear end damage to that car.
Yeah, super surprised that Jordy Fike was able to keep it out of the wall. That thing went whistling across the inside of the racetrack. Of course, here at Daytona a number of years ago, they paved all the way down the side of that particular corner coming out of turn number 2 because drivers had trouble getting in there in the NASCAR, the Cup classes and the other NASCAR series, getting onto the grass, then getting, of course, up into the air. Having that asphalt down there has allowed them to kind of, slow it up and have the tires able to grip even when they're sliding sideways. Good save for him. Tough one for Beasley, of course. Those two drivers just getting together, pinching coming out of turn number 2 on NASCAR, but really turn number 9 here on the road course layout at Daytona. Tough for both of those drivers, but guys, into pit lane comes Ford and Jacobs. Kevin Ford and Jeff Jacobs into pit lane finally. They've gone 35 minutes into this one.
Yeah, like you said, Kevin Ford onto the lane here. Jeff Jacobs, he is on the lane as well. Cameron Martin, the last driver now to cycle through and take their pit stop. This will be a pretty easy one here for Aeronom and Clint Vigas. They will quite easily take the race lead, as Jacobs and Ford are still in their box, so they're not moving as of yet. Ford moves, and there goes Jacobs as well. So they're back out, and they will actually jump Clint Vigas here, who had that contact with your MX-5 leader at the time, which is Chris Thorman. He still is leading your MX-5 field, but he will have some quite severe damage to take to the end of that one.
Yeah, it looks to me like Chris Thorman finally coming into pit lane. But again, as we said, pretty good run there for Jacobs and Ford. They went late, able to jump over Vigas after the incident that he had. Shiflett did come through as well. So it's Aeronom and Tyler Shiflett, P1, P2. I don't think that Martineau's pit as of yet. We'll see if he comes in. But watching this great battle again, Hartley the leader, Rankin runs in second. And it's the 93 right there as well in the middle of this fight. That's Mike Dam back into it. Not sure if this is quite for the lead yet, because we have a couple drivers who have not yet made the run to the pits. Mike Taylor and Lucas Ford, I think they're still the pit. But I believe Tyler and Alessandro, I think this is the lead group at this point.
Yeah, this is pretty much the lead group, except for John Allen. He is way out in front. You also just saw 2 race control messages there. Sorry to cut you off, Alessandro, but we have the 09. He has a drive-through penalty, as well as the 78 of Aeronom for that incident responsibility. So big shakeups here.
Big.
Big news. You have all the right to interrupt me there, because this is gonna change the plans of the 78 Aeronom, the best driver I ever met on a racing driving the Ford. Is probably one of the most experienced guys in the whole field in a racing with this car. He's gonna have a tough break, but I feel like he can bounce from this drive-through penalty and still get some decent points. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. He's got enough of a lead. Let's see where he slots in once he gets out through and tries to get back to Jeff Jacobs and Kevin Ford. I don't know, though, Tyler, because remember, a pretty good late run for Jacobs and Ford to go deeper into the session. We've only got really about, 22 and a half minutes remaining in this race before we see the checker. I'm not sure that Aeronom's going to be able to fight his way back to the podium.
Yeah, I just don't see it either. I think he's pretty much out of it now, and I think that Tyler Shiflett and the rest of the drivers will know that he's out of this one. He really doesn't have an opportunity, so they don't really have any reason to fight him here. So with Tyler Shiflett being very far out in the race lead, 12 seconds, he won't have to worry about that. But Jacobs and Kevin Ford, I don't think they're really going to fight Nom, because they know that he has to come on and serve a drive-through penalty. So there's really no reason for them to fight him at this point. They basically just have to cruise around as John Allen takes over the race lead once again in your MX-5s, and he is now your provisional race leader, or your actual race leader now, by nearly 3 seconds back to this next group, who he was fighting before the pit stop. So that's an amazing strategy from John Allen. He is going all out for this first race. He wants this early championship lead.
I find it really interesting. Of course, qualified on the pole, but fell back to, I think, 5th at one point as there was some action in front of him, whether or not that was kind of a strategy call to try to get back into the draft, potentially save a bit of fuel. But right now, as you said, he's got a pretty nice little advantage. Ford still in there. Lucas Ford about a second and a half back. Hartley's right there as well, as is Rankin, Dam, and Schwenke. So there's a group of 4 drivers trying to catch the number 76 of Ford, and then Allen's in front of them. Alessandro, I'd like to see if these 4 drivers, will they set up? Will they work together? Will they try to draft up? Or is Jonathan Allen going to allow them to fight it out amongst themselves and pull away to grab this race win?
That's a very good question. If I was them, I would try to work together, but it's really, really tough. Allen is so far in front, more than 3 seconds. It's really, really difficult to get this time back in only 20 minutes with this car. And the Ford is still to pit. If I don't, he still have to pit, so he will be sliding back in a few laps.
Indeed, that's one thing we're looking for. When these drivers made the run into pit lane, Lucas Ford has not yet done so. He's pushing deep into the run, though, that's for sure, having not yet come in to get fuel. We know that's going to have to happen sooner or later for Lucas Ford in that number 76. That's going to, again, give that gap to Jonathan Allen up front. It's going to end up being right around 3 seconds. Hartley now takes it over as here comes the 76 down pit lane. Got to whoa that car up to make sure he hits the pit lane speed. So indeed, out of P2, a driver coming in, Lucas Ford for his pit. That's going to put Hartley into second. Rankin now runs in third. The 93 of Mike Dam in fourth. And Travis Schwenke running in the top 5. They're going to try to reel in Allen. Tyler, it's a 3.1 second lead. It's open air, open track for John Allen. Can Hartley and his crew reel him in?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough one, and we'll find out here when we go non-stop action here on Apex Racing TV. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few minutes here for the Ricmotech Classic Sprint Series for the final 15 minutes of this event.
Back to full screen coverage of the Ricmotech High Performance Sim Racing Equipment Classic Sprint Series, brought to you by Proforma Elite Texas Graphics. My name's Rob Howden, joined by Alessandro Dalladone and Tyler Maxson as we bring you coverage here. We're coming down into the final, probably 13 or 14 minutes of this battle, and some action up front, Tyler. Let's have a look at the replay, I believe. An issue on track. This is Jeff Jacobs in the number 38 trying to roll through the bus stop, trying to get inside one of the NX5 Cup cars and just not able to get the run. And he and that number 57 getting together, trying to pick up the 57 Edgar Sancinelli, I believe. And yeah, they reviewed it, Tyler. No action taken. Seemed like a racing incident to me. Jacobs just couldn't quite get to the inside. Sancinelli coming back across the racetrack. We've seen that happen many times in the bus stop before.
Yeah, that's a very commonly known problem, to say the least, in the bus stop. It's but hey, it's an unfortunate incident. But Aeronam as well, this is something that we need to bring up here. He's already made his pit stop. That is crucial right now, because he is still in second place in this race, even after making the pit stop, with the dramas there for Clint Vigas. But I mean, for Jeff Jacobs. But what an unfortunate way to end the race. He was very quick, was Jacobs, and was doing quite well in that GS class, and he joins one of just 5 retirements. 5 retirements, yes, it's 5 in this race. And that's also something to bring up too. We have a 33 car field, and still we have 28 of them running. That is very impressive here for the first round. Not many people have found the wall, and if you can survive at a track like Daytona, which I think probably has one of the higher incident counts just due to the high speeds and nature of this circuit.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes for the series, the drivers, and I think it points to what will be a tremendous schedule all season here for the CSS. I like this battle as well still here, because Rankin in that 54 has been able to go into that second spot. Pardon me. Rankin P2, Hartley still right there. It's still a 2.9 second lead, though, for John Allen. Alessandro, we got a great battle back here for second or third. Final couple spots on the podium, but John Allen just seems to be pulling away and making it all work up front.
Yeah, Allen still pulling away. Hartley and Rankin working together, drafting together, slingshotting on the straights, trying to reduce the gap, as you can see from our tower column. The time is going slowly down, 2/10 gained on this front stretch, but then when it's time to go into the infield, Allen is pulling, checking out big time. So it's gonna be a very nice battle, 4-way battles for 2 podium spots. It's gonna be a thrilling finale for this ST category.
Yeah, I'm not sure who I would say is going to get second or third. I think it's really up in the air. I think both Robert Hartley and Elvis Rankin have been probably the strongest of the 4 drivers here. We did see, however, Mike Dam get himself back up into the fight after a good early stop strategy. Got a really clean stop, a good in-lap, a good out-lap, put himself back in the middle of the fight, having fallen back to about 7th place early. Mike Dam now running in that 4th position. Right behind him, of course, is Travis Schwenke in the number 16. So all 4 of these drivers looking very good. Tyler up front, I'm watching this time, the split, of course, between Tyler Shiflett, who's the leader, and Aero Nam running in second. It's 9.3 seconds now, but it keeps falling every time I look back, right? It's down a little bit more. We've got just under 10 minutes remaining. He'd have to make up a second a lap for Nam. I don't think he's got that much pace. Maybe a couple tenths of a second quicker, but I just don't think it's enough for him to reel in Shiflett in the lead.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, last lap, Aeronam did about 0.6 of a second faster than the driver of Tyler Shiflett, but like you said, I just don't see that happening to the point where he gains nearly a second a lap. I think at this point, that field is pretty much set, depending on whether Shiflett gets in some sort of big major traffic, because if that happens, then anything is to play for there. But like you say, I think Aeronam is going to be a little bit too far back. He's just going to have to settle for second place tonight, but these guys won't be settling for anything. They're trying to close in on John Allen. They're not able to do so thus far, but it's pretty much a very tight-knit battle for that second position right now.
Alessandro, I think this is just going to be a straight up absolute barn burner fight to the very end. These drivers are just going at it like crazy. And second, third, fourth, and fifth, they are lined up, right? All 4 drivers getting set to go. You know that they're watching. You know that the spotters are telling them how far they are behind Allen. That gap continues to increase. It's now 3.8 seconds. These guys got to realize that with it just over 8 minutes, they're racing for second. And I got a feeling that a couple laps from now, guys a little further back, like Dam and Schwenke, I think they're going to say, you know what? It's time to get aggressive. I want to go to the front of this pack.
Yes, I totally agree. It's time to lock bumpers on the straight and put big sense in the bus stop and turn 1. We will see a lot of big dives in the last 5 laps of this motor event. Hartley is gonna try his best not to let the 54 car by, but with the draft it's gonna be hectic, chaotic finish, and we also to keep in mind that there might be some lapping going on. This could be a very decisive factor in the end of this beautiful and very tight race.
Yeah, and I think that always plays, Alessandro, especially when you have a race like this with the 2 different categories within one race, the different closing speeds, of course, significantly faster laps. Last lap time by for Tyler Shiflett, he did a 2:02.9, leader John Allen a 2:10.1. So you're looking at, to be real, somewhere between 7 and 8 seconds difference here. And when you're closing up on a driver like that, it could definitely play a factor in seeing what happens here for this second, third, and fourth place run. In fact, it looks now like these 2 drivers trying to pull away a little bit here. Elvis Rankin and Robert Hartley are locked and loaded. They're trying to see if they can't get rid of Schwenke and Mike Dam. Mike Dam's been dropped off the tail of that already, Tyler. It was 4 a lap ago. We're close right now to it being just 3 drivers, maybe even 2 as they get ready to dive back into turn number 1 to the infield section here at Daytona.
Yeah, and that was a slowdown penalty there for John Allen, or for Mike Dam, sorry. He had a slowdown penalty, and that cost him a lot of time, but he's now back up to racing speed. You know how we were saying that Aeronam isn't going to be able to close a second? Well, the guy's been going a second faster every single lap, except for that lap. That was the only lap that he has not gone a second faster in the last 2 or 3 laps now. His gap is now down to 7.5 seconds, so it is dropping and dropping rapidly, Rob. As soon as we say this guy can't do something, what does he do? Go ahead and do it.
That's exactly it. I kept looking at the last lap on our live timing, and I was seeing that these high 201s, 201.8, 201.9. Shiflett was up to a 202.9 at one point. Last time was 0.4 of a second. Less than 8 seconds in the gap between first and second, but just 5.5 minutes remaining here. We know how things kind of wrap up here in iRacing, and depending on what time the driver is going to come across the line, we'll see how many laps we are going to go. Back with the drivers here in this ST Pro category. Robert Hartley in that number 3, still trying to chase down Elvis Rankin, the young driver coming through the USAC quarter midgets, Bandoleros, USAC midget category. Very impressive young driver. We'll talk more about him throughout the season here on the Classic Sprint Series. But man, we got a good fight here for second. And again, Hartley looking to the inside, coming down the straightaway into the bus stop. Will he make the move under the brakes? He does not. First driver to dive in is Rankin in the 54, Alessandro. Look at these drivers. I thought it was going to be 2, but it appears to me like both Schwenke and Dam trying to come back into the fight.
Yeah, maybe Schwenke and Dam are just trying to play it safe, let the boys in front have it, and try to get the most in the last few laps. Maybe there will be some contact, as you can see there. The 2 in front locking bumpers to get even faster. So this has always been very, very tricky and very, very dangerous to do here with this pointy MX-5.
Yeah, Tyler, I don't want to play the commentator's curse. We always all know about it, but man, these guys are going at it like crazy. I'd like to see what the Vegas odds are on all 4 of these drivers coming home, having not gone around one time, because they're already dropping gloves, as we've said. 4 minutes remaining of the race, 28 laps down. This is a good scrap. Second, third, fourth, and fifth. Rankin, Hartley, Schwenke, and Dam. What do you think? Are these guys going to come home clean?
I don't want to call that yet, because I don't want to be the one to place commentator's curse on somebody. Because
you
anyone
see me deflect that though, right?
Yeah,
I deflected that over to you.
Now, anyone who's watched this series for any kind of short length of time will know that I think I've commentators cursed more people in this series in the just over a year that I've commentated in this than any other series that I've ever commentated on. And I apologize to every single driver that I have really, really badly commentators cursed over the years. But I don't want to even bring that up. That's my goal for this season. I don't want to commentators cursed on a single driver in this season. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to try to get through it.
Good luck with that, Tyler. Good luck with that. Hey, let's go back to the front here because Tyler Shiflett, we talked about the fact that Aeronom was closing up, right? It's down to 6.8 seconds, but he is putting down some tremendous lap times. In fact, there's him going by right now. That is your leader, Tyler Shiflett. He's able to get by the front-running drivers in the STO Pro class. Here's Aeronom again in the 78. It's a 6.9 second lead now. But kudos to Shiflett. That last time by before he got into it with the ST guys, he got down into the high 201s, and that's key. A 201.97. He was just 0.02 of a second slower than Shiflett, and that has allowed him to maintain this spot. We're watching Aeronom right now. 7 times, the last 7 championships here in this Mustang category. It was, of course, the Sports Car Championship. Now it's with the Classic Sprint Series program with Ricmotech. Back watching this battle for second. But just wanted to give a good shout out there to Tyler Shiflett, putting down really good lap times, Alessandro.
Yeah, he's doing a heck of a job there. Unfortunately for Aeronom getting a drive-through, but Shiflett has done a textbook race, clean race, no mistakes. Hopefully I didn't jinx it, but we have at least 2 laps still to go, so just bring it home and make sure not to get into trouble with the MX-5 cars. In the meantime, we watch this beautiful battle still going at the hairpin. Very respectful racing. I know this series from a long time, even not commentating. I always seen people very, very respectful of each other. So I'm sure we're gonna have a very, very, very good battle here in the last few laps in the GS ST category.
Yeah, throw a wrinkle in here though right now, Alessandro, because that second place runner Aeronom trying to come through them here. He's picking and weaving his way through. It was impressive because Mike Dam looked like I think he was ready to potentially take a run at it. This is actually going to give Robert Hartley in the number 3, an opportunity to pull away because just as Nam was coming through, Tyler, you could see that happening. They all kind of had to pick and choose, get on the brakes where they were going. Coming through turn number 5, Aeronom really shook it up, and that's given Hartley a pretty nice little advantage. Will there be enough draft for Rankin to come back as we're coming into the final minute? I don't know. Hartley may have just been gifted second spot.
Yeah, he may have been gifted second spot, but that's definitely nothing I think really confirmed here. I mean, that is just the beauty of Daytona, is that the draft is so large. But Tyler Shiflett, he was down to about a 6.2 second lead from Aeronom, and that went back up to a 5.8 being in that traffic. So that really hurt the driver of Tyler Shiflett there, and that was not ideal for him whatsoever. And he'll come across the line. That will be the white flag lap here for Tyler Shiflett. So I think it's going to be pretty much impossible for Aeronom to close down at 7 seconds on this lap, but hey, never say never.
Kevin Ford in the third place runner in the GS category, getting by this battle for second, third, and fourth, and fifth very cleanly, just able to get them on the front straightaway, dive into one first. This is the final battle. Right now, we haven't been watching John Allen that much. He has got this race pretty much in hand. It's a 4.2 second lead in the ST Pro category for John Allen. Look at this scrap though. Hartley again holding on to P2. Fight still happening further back. Rankin side by side now here with the 93 of Mike Dam. Dam will have the inside coming into turn 4. Alessandro, this is going to come to the very end to see who stands on the podium in ST Pro.
Yes, indeed. It's gonna be strategy. Do you want to lead the field exiting the bus stop, Rob?
I don't know. I think you're right. That's the
I
key.
don't think so.
You don't think so? I'd have to agree with you right now, but I don't think that he has any choice. I think Mike Dam, the veteran driver, has put himself P3 now. That's exactly where he needs to be. They'll work their way out of the infield section for the final time. Again, remember, Tyler Shiflett out front looking to go for the win. Will ride just outside the left front of Mike Dam and the number 93 machine again. Look at the run he'll get coming down the straightaway. High side goes Hartley to the very top. Tyler, I think he wishes these guys would go by right now.
Yeah, and I think what Robert Hartley's trying to do here, he's trying to reduce the draft size for Mike Dam. He doesn't want Mike Dam to get that huge slingshot where he can just fling by him going down into the bus stop. This is a common MX-5 strategy that I've seen pulled so many times in this series. Mike Dam, he's kind of screwed himself here just a little bit because he's a bit too close to the back of Robert Hartley, but Tyler Shiflett will come across the line to win tonight's event in GS, but it's all still to play for, Rob, in your ST field.
Hold your breath, folks. It's ranking down to the bottom of the racetrack. Look the way to the outside. Go Schwenke. They're going to be 4 wide coming across. Mike Dam, is he going to get it? No, it's Hartley still to the bottom. They're going to be 4 wide, potentially 3 wide for sure coming across the line. Who's it going to be? I think it was Schwenke.
Travis.
You got to love that. Travis Schwenke all around the outside. He was back in 5th as they came out of the bus stop. You know what, Alessandro, you hit the nail on the head. That was not the place to be. Elvis Rankin ends up in 5th in the class. Allen, of course, with a 4.6 second win, but you called it on Hartley, Alessandro. You do not want to lead coming out of the bus stop.
Indeed. Either you get a super run out of the bus stop and stay in front, but with a 4 cars pack, the last car has a so much better run, so much draft that is impossible even to block the guys. He tried his best, but the sling shot, you can't do much about it. Either you block it or you just let them by.
Hey, for us watching it, it was fantastic, and we knew that it was going to get a little bit crazy. I don't think he got the best run through the bus stop. It seems like he had to check up a little bit. Dam got a really good run and actually looked to the inside coming out of the bus stop at one point. Went to the high side, and I thought Mike Dam had things pretty much handled as well. But you got to give props to Travis Schwenke. He could see what was happening. They were going 2-3 wide in front of him. He went to the high side, got the big run, and even Rankin, he was trying to help Hartley through the middle. It just was not going to work. Bottom line, Tyler, that was a tremendous race. Great run for Tyler Shiflett. Of course, he had good speed. Again, primarily the victory coming to the fact that Aero Nam got that drive-through penalty with contact with one of the drivers. Actually, the leader at that point, Thorman, coming in at turn number 1, that sent him through pit lane and dropped him down the order. He ends up being a little over 5 seconds back. Kevin Ford, though, Tyler, with a really good run. P3 for Kevin.
Yeah, wonderful run for Kevin. We have our final race results, though, here, Rob, coming up on your screen momentarily.
All right, folks, let's have a look at this. Again, Tyler Shiflett with the win. 5.3 seconds ends up being the margin of victory for the May Motorsports driver. Aero 9 for Tim Bushpink ends up P2. Kevin Ford in the Ricmotech Motorsports number 32 Mustang finishes 3rd. Cameron Martineau, one of the young guns coming into the program, ends up in 4th. David Sanders and Robert Brist, the drivers, able to finish in our GS category. John Allen, as we said, getting that victory over Travis Schwenke. Mike Dam, Robert Hartley, and Elvis Rankin. Alessandro, some good racing further back. Of course, we have the ST Pro and the ST Open category. Bottom line is, we just saw a great start to this season.
Yes, it was an amazing start. We are really looking already forward for the next event, which will be held in 3 weeks' time at Belle Isle. So totally different track, but I bet we're gonna have a lot of fun also on the streets in Detroit.
I think that's going to be a heck of a race. Much different than what we just saw here. Of course, we'll take an opportunity to get some of our drivers to join us here in the commentary booth for a little bit of a post-race debrief, if you will. Tyler Shiflett, though, coming home with a big win, and I think that's huge to start the season. We talked about the fact that Aero Nam has almost been dominant, almost unbeatable in the championship. 7 straight titles in the Sports Car Championship. Of course, moving now over to this Classic Sprint Series. Big thank you to Ricmotech and Proforma for being presenting sponsors of this series. Just getting things underway. Season number 1 of this brand new program. As Tyler had mentioned at the start of the broadcast, it was kind of an evolution with the new cars coming in, the new Cayman and the new Audi coming in, the TCR machine to kind of evolve the other Sports Car Championship program under the Ricmotech banner. But great to see these veteran drivers here in the Mustang, the Ford Mustang, and in the Global MX-5 Mazda machine. Again, going further through the field, Jordy Fike ends up in 17th, Mike Taylor in 18th, Ken Ladd and Michael Key rounding out the top 20. Nicholas Parcheneau ends up in 21st, Eric Klister in 22nd, 23rd, 24th, Greg Brockway and Patrick Prevenas. Clint Vigas, we saw him run up front as a championship battler in the GS category, but he got caught up with the spinning MX-5 car that ended up putting Aero Nam down to pit lane. Brian Cummings ends up in 26th, Lucas Ford 27th. Jeff Jacobs, who ran with Kevin Ford for majority of that race, got caught up with one of our MX-5 cars, and he was into the wall coming out of the bus stop. Randall McGrew out early as well, 8 laps down in 29th. Chris Thorman, the driver who was leading and got taken out by Eli Nam, ends up 30th. Edgar Sancinelli in 31st. Jacob Beasley and Steve Daniel rounding out the field. Tyler Maxson, that was a great way to start the season. But it's Daytona. You're always going to get great racing at Daytona. Always these fantastic draft packs. And usually a big finish. Alessandro called it. He knew that you didn't want to be leading the bus stop.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be leading into the bus stop here. It's a very tough situation to put yourself in at a track like this. But nonetheless, it has definitely been some good racing here tonight from Daytona. We have 2 drivers waiting for an interview. Let's get your winning driver for tonight into the commentary booth, and it's Tyler Shiflett. Rob, you're stood alongside him.
Hey, Tyler, congratulations. What a tremendous way to start the season. You ran a solid race throughout the entire hour. There was obviously some action in front of you that played to your way in terms of Aero Nam getting a drive-through penalty. But otherwise, man, you nailed it. How do you feel getting the season off to a victorious start?
Hey, guys. Thanks so much. This is awesome. It's been so long since I've been in Victory Lane. I forget what it's like, honestly. Kind of played the strategy. Unfortunately, the leader got a penalty for getting into a Mazda, and I still had to fight my way back. After we pitted, I was about 3 seconds behind, but just kind of put my head down, threw down some laps, was able to catch him, and then that incident happened. But all in all, fun race, and it was good racing up front there with everybody. And hats off to the new sponsor on the car, Pacific Motors. Loving the new schemes Clint and I are running this year.
Tyler, let me bring up one thing. I don't know how closely you were following your fast lap times, but at one point you had about 10 seconds on Nam running first and second, of course, with about 10 minutes to go. He was starting to knock out some real quick lap times, about a second quicker at one point. We figured you were kind of settling into your pace, knowing the gap you have. But those last couple laps, you got down to the high 201s. And even though you had a big gap, there had to be some level of pride, I think, in being able to knock down really good laps at the very end to make sure that you had this thing in the bag.
Yeah, and good observation. So when he came out of the pits, I realized I had a 12-second gap, and I was close on fuel. So I was trying to take it easy, save some fuel, then have some left in the tank in case I needed to turn it on. So, yeah, I was saving, kind of taking it easy, had a lot of traffic to go through, and then as you noticed at the end there, I was trying to see if I could put down some hot laps and just finish it off. So, yeah. Awesome race.
It's a long season, Tyler, but it's always good to get it started with a win, is it not?
Absolutely. It's good to start the season out and see if we can build on this and go on to the next race and hopefully rack up some more wins and top threes and podiums.
Hey, congratulations once again.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, guys.
Tyler Shiflett, ladies and gentlemen, the winner with May Motorsports. A tremendous run for him. And Tyler, we'll bring the next guy in, Jonathan Allen. We'll let Alessandro have a chat with our winner in the ST Pro class. But what a great run again for Tyler Shiflett. Able to hold on a bit, lays it down at the end. Bottom line was just tremendous racing.
Yeah, certainly was. And John Allen is in the commentary booth. He stood alongside Alessandro here for your race winner in your ST field.
Yeah, John, how you doing?
Doing good. Not much better you can be after a race like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Qualifying was a bit disappointing, starting in P12, but you made your way through the field, and thanks to a great pit strategy, you brought home the opening round of this new championship.
Yeah, Daytona's treated me pretty well, typically, and I had really good outright pace and, take the bonus points for getting on pole. But then you need to settle down here. It's such a big pack in the draft, 10, 12 cars, even 10 laps in. So It's not worth being impatient. I was eyeballing the Mustangs coming up and able to pit before they really played a role, and some others followed suit. I just had a really good execution on the pit stop and was able to turn some quick times after.
Yeah, sorry, I misread the information. Obviously, you started on pole position, you gained 11 spots, but on the overall standings. My bad. Newbie mistake. Other than that, anybody you want to shout out? And what's your thought about your next race in 3 weeks' time at Detroit? Do you like that track? Any experience with the Mazda on the bumpy streets of Belle Isle?
I love Belle Isle to visit as a spectator. I've watched several races there, IndyCar and IMSA. It's a reasonable drive from home, but I've only raced it one time in the Mazda, so I'm going to need to practice. It's very unforgiving. There's no runoff. There's walls, so you got to get it right or tow it home. So I'm looking forward to that challenge for sure. Tonight, just once again, repping the Defined Auto Works livery on here. And shout out to my buddy Logan for that. And because it worked well to close last season, my friend Tony Lukoski spotting for me again tonight. Great Lakes buddy from Great Lakes region in NASA. And the multi-class running we do there, I think, always plays nicely in this series with the Mustangs coming through.
Yeah, sure, indeed. Traffic management is always key of any multi-class event. That was John Allen, winner of the ST class for today's opening round here at Daytona Motor Speedway.
You know, I really liked his comments from John, realizing early on that he didn't need to get that aggressive. We saw him, Tyler, fall back probably, 4 or 5 spots. He wasn't in the middle of the fight, but I think the one thing I really liked hearing was that he was watching the Mustang drivers, the guys in the GS category starting to come through when they were getting ready to come through. And we saw it at the very end with Aero Nam when he really kind of shook up that battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in ST. John made a move to the pit lane. He wanted nothing to do with the Mustangs coming through. Go to pit lane, get out in clean air, and that really paid off for him for sure.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, he just executed that strategy absolutely perfectly. And as Alessandro kind of alluded to there, we're going to Belle Isle next season, or next round of the championship. That's a tough racetrack, Rob. You know that track from IndyCar. And it's definitely a tough one. It's not going to be an easy one to get around. Those walls are definitely close, and you are brushing right up against them, especially in a car like the MX-5 where it's kind of a looser rear end. You're really moving around in the car. That's going to be sort of a challenge for the drivers, I think, trying to wrestle the vehicles around that racetrack. But that's definitely going to prove to be some very exciting racing taking place on the 18th of May.
Yeah, and for me, I think I could hear it in John Allen's voice. There was some trepidation there. Oh, he's been there before. He's watched races in IMSA and IndyCar. Of course, we know that they've done a little bit of work on the track since. It's probably been laser scanned by iRacing. It's a tough racetrack. And anytime you have a track like that where there's no runoff, that's when there's issues. Because we all know that as drivers, we're pushing the edge and we're constantly kind of dropping a left rear here, dropping a right rear here. You can't do that at many of the corners in Detroit. You make a little mistake and the car gets a little loose on you, you over-rotate, and you're in the wall. And he said that. If you don't take care of the car, you're towing it home. So I think it'll be interesting to see which drivers are able to handle themselves. It's kind of a St. Pete kind of a track where there's not a lot of room for error. And I think that's what's going to play really as the storyline when we eventually get to Belle Isle in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, certainly is indeed. It's definitely going to be a challenge for those drivers, like you said, but I think it's going to be a welcome challenge for them. Now, I believe it is next week we start off the sports car series, and that's a great action that series will have to offer for us. But until then, it's definitely going to be a fun little wait for us here on Apex Racing TV before we get to come back to this exact same Daytona road course to start off that season for its 17th season of running.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one in a big way. It's interesting with the evolution of this program, right? With the drivers we saw here in the Ford Mustangs and in the Mazda MX-5 Cup cars, they've been that core foundation. That's the drivers that have been in the Sports Car Championship. This being moved now to the Classic Sprint Series, we're going to see new cars, probably a lot of the same drivers. It's going to be exciting to see what happens in that particular class. That particular series, rather, and we're back here at Daytona again. So what we just saw we get to see it all over again with different race cars. I'm super excited to get back for that one.
Yeah, certainly going to be an extremely fun one indeed, but I think that's pretty much all the time that we have here tonight for for round one of the Ricmotech Classic Sprint Series here live from Daytona. It's by myself, Tyler Maxon, Rob Howden, and Alessandro Daldonde has taken you through this tonight's action. Join us in about a week's time now for the start of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series here from this exact same iconic facility. And until then, we will see you next time here on Apex Racing TV.